Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Combating Cancer. My name is Gwen Kelly, and I'm your host. For those who may be new here, I was diagnosed with stage 3 astrocytoma brain cancer at the age of 19. I started this podcast because I wanted to create a space where people could have honest conversations about cancer, the conversations that don't always happen in the doctor's office, support groups, or on social media. Whether you're currently in treatment, in remission, caring for someone you love, grieving someone you've lost, or simply trying to understand what life with cancer is really like, I want this to be a place where you feel seen, heard, and understood. Today, I want to talk about something that honestly makes my stomach turn. I want to talk about bullying people who are going through cancer. Now, before we even get into it, bullying anyone is wrong. But there's something especially heartbreaking about watching someone fight one of the hardest battles imaginable and then seeing other people make that battle even harder. Cancer already takes enough from people. It takes their health, it takes their sense of normalcy, it takes their confidence, it takes their routines, it takes their plans. It takes away the feeling of certainty that so many people take for granted. And for some people, it takes away years of their life. So when I hear stories about cancer patients being mocked, excluded, bullied, or made to feel less than because of their diagnosis, I genuinely struggle to understand it. The reason this topic has been on my heart lately is because over the years, through this podcast, social media, and conversations within the cancer community, I've heard far too many stories of people being treated cruelly because of what they're going through. Some of those stories involve young children, some involve teenagers, some involve adults, but the common theme is always the same. Someone is already carrying an unimaginable burden, and another person decides to add to it. I've heard stories of children losing their hair and being laughed at. I've heard stories of teenagers being excluded from friend groups after their diagnosis. I've heard stories of people being stared at in public because of surgical scars, wheelchairs, feeding tubes, or physical changes caused by treatment. I've heard stories of people being reduced to their diagnosis instead of being seen as a human being. And one story that has always stayed with me has involved a young girl who was losing her hair during treatment. Other kids would pull on her ponytail and laugh when strands of hair came out into their hands. Another involved a young boy who had lost all of his hair from chemotherapy. Instead of supporting him, classmates mocked him and told him he looked like the alien E.T. And I just remember hearing how devastated he was. And every time I hear stories like these, I find myself asking the same question. How can someone look at a person who is already fighting for their life and decide to make that battle harder? Because this isn't dark humor. This isn't a cancer patient making jokes about their own experience. Trust me, cancer patients are some of the funniest people you'll ever meet. Sometimes dark humor is how we survive. I know that's how I survived. But this isn't friends joking around. This isn't someone accidentally saying the wrong thing. This is cruelty, and there's a difference. And one thing I want to talk about today is the difference between ignorance and cruelty, because throughout my own cancer journey, I've experienced both. I remember people asking if they could see underneath my wig. I remember people wanting to know exactly how much hair I lost and to see photos of it. And at the time, some of those comments hurt. And I would feel uncomfortable and I would feel embarrassed and I'd be wishing people wouldn't ask. But looking back, those people weren't trying to hurt me. They were just curious and I think they didn't understand. And honestly, I can't completely fault someone for not understanding something they've never experienced. And in a strange way, I'm grateful when people don't understand how painful cancer can be, because it usually means they've never had to watch someone they love go through it. They've never sat in the infusion rooms. They've never waited for biopsy results. They've never watched someone's hair fall out. They've never watched someone they love fight for their life. And that's a blessing. But cruelty is different. Cruelty is a choice, and cruelty is seeing someone's vulnerability and using it against them. It's making fun of someone's appearance after treatment changes their body. It's making jokes about someone's diagnosis. It's intentionally trying to make someone feel smaller when they're already carrying more than most people could ever imagine. And that's where I draw the line, because there's a massive difference between not knowing better and intentionally trying to hurt someone. And what breaks my heart is that many cancer patients already feel isolated before anyone says a single word. Cancer changes your life overnight. One day you're living a normal life. The next day you're learning how to navigate surgeries, scans, medications, side effects, and uncertainty. And suddenly you feel different. You become the sick friend, the sick student, the sick coworker, the person everyone worries about. And that's hard. I know because I lived it. When I was first diagnosed, one of my biggest fears wasn't just the cancer itself, it was how people would see me. I was worried that people would stop inviting me to places, that people wouldn't know what to say, that I would be known as the girl with brain cancer. And I was worried that people would pity me and see me differently and only see me as my diagnosis. And I think a lot of young people who are diagnosed understand exactly what I'm talking about because cancer doesn't just affect your body, it affects your identity. Overnight, you go from feeling like everyone else to feeling completely different. Your friends are talking about sports, relationships, college, vacations, and future plans, and meanwhile, you're sitting in waiting rooms, meeting with surgeons, discussing treatment plans, having the dreaded scheduling of MRIs, and learning medical terminology you never wanted to know. And that can feel so incredibly lonely. And the reason bullying hurts so much is because it reinforces fears that are already there. The fear that you'll never fit in, the fear that you'll never be viewed the same way, the fear that you'll always be different. Because cancer already makes people feel less alone, and cruelty only deepens that loneliness. But I also want to share something hopeful, because while there are people who choose cruelty, there are far more people who choose kindness. When I was diagnosed, I was blessed with incredible friends. Friends who checked in, who sat beside me, who made me laugh, who let me cry. Friends who just treated me like Gwen instead of treating me like a cancer patient. And I truly believe those people changed my experience because sometimes support doesn't look like grand gestures. Sometimes support literally looks like sending a text, inviting them somewhere, sitting next to them, treating them normally, reminding them that they're still themselves. People often think that they need to say the perfect thing to someone going through cancer. You don't. You just need to be there. Because sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is your presence. And I also want to talk about the people who witness bullying, because sometimes the most powerful person in the room isn't the bully, it's the person standing next to them, the person who decides whether they're going to stay silent or speak up, the person who chooses whether they're going to walk away or sit beside the person who's hurting. It doesn't take 100 people to make a difference. It just takes one friend, one classmate, one coworker, one teammate, one person willing to show kindness. That's all it takes. As I've gotten older, I've realized something. People may forget conversations, forget details, forget exact words, but they rarely forget how someone made them feel. I don't remember every appointment from my cancer journey. I don't remember every scan. I don't remember every medication adjustment, but I remember the people who showed up. I remember who texted me, who sat beside me, and who made me feel loved. And unfortunately, I also remember some of the comments that hurt. Years later, I still remember them. That's how powerful our words are. Every day we have a choice. We can make someone's burden lighter, or we can make it heavier. We can make someone feel seen, or we can make them feel invisible. And most of the times, we have no idea what battle someone is fighting behind closed doors. The person sitting next to you could be waiting for scan results, could be undergoing chemotherapy, could be grieving a loved one, could be carrying fears they've never told anyone about, which is exactly why kindness should never be conditional. It shouldn't depend on someone's appearance, their diagnosis, on what they can do for you. It should simply be how we treat people. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today's episode, it's this. Be the person who makes someone's burden lighter, not heavier. Because cancer is already hard enough. No one should have to fight the disease and fight the people around them at the same time. So thank you so much for listening to another episode of Combating Cancer. If this resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone in your life. And if you're currently going through cancer and feeling alone, please hear me when I say this. There are good people in the world. There are people who care, and there are people who will stand beside you. And no matter what you're facing today, you do not have to face it alone. So thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next Wednesday.